The AIDS has returned. Seriously, somebody help me. It's incredibly painful. But all kidding aside, when I say that the AIDS has returned, I, of course, am talking about Just Pearly Things, the embodiment of an STD that just won't quit. Every time you think she's gone, every time you think the STD gets demonetized, it just returns, somehow. What's up, everybody? It's your favorite white person, Hunter Avalone here, back with another video. Don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Recently, we discussed Just Pearly Things becoming religious, or at least announcing that she considered herself to be a Christian or something like this. All incredibly cringy shit. But to make matters worse, now that she has fully embraced this schizophrenia that is known as religion, she's now using her religious status to attack other religious people, specifically religious women. Christian women get offended and control men. Pearl reacts to Allie, Beth, Stuckey's views on women. So for those of you who are not familiar with Allie, Beth, Stuckey, I'm very sorry. She's much more commonly known as Allie Beth Sucky, just the typical religious crap constantly flowing from her mouth, anti-gay, all that cringe. But now apparently there's like a civil war breaking out amongst the conservative Christian ladies, I guess. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and let's find out how Just Pearly Things is going to weaponize her own self-hatred to further attack women this time.
Like what they sound like, what they think like, and they're extremely crass, extremely crude.
That is, go back to the whiteboard. Step 3, right there. Step 3. Christian women get offended and tell the men how to talk. There it is. They're very crass and crude. I really wish my handwriting was better. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, your handwriting is crass and crude. And also, how is this just a Christian man thing? Men have a tendency to sometimes say creepy things that freak women out or offend people. That kind of sometimes happens to guys especially. A lot of this is due to socialization and whatnot, but how exactly is this like a unique thing going on within Christian circles? And I like how her final point is ruin church, as if church isn't already ruined just by its existence.
You can bring it back. They're very crass and crude. The men. Don't talk like men. Talk like women. Men, when they're in a locker room together, they talk crass and crude.
Yeah, so why is that okay? And why is it okay to, like, behind closed doors, objectify women and talk about women as if they're nothing but objects to satisfy your own sexual desires? Why is that okay? And why is that just, like, talking like a guy, LOL? You realize that the more and more acceptable this kind of joking and talk becomes, the more likely it is that some of these guys are going to act on it and do very bad things. You realize this, right? I mean, if men constantly are telling each other how women are purely objects to fulfill their own sexual desires, how does that not naturally follow that we're going to see more? Because after all, these people are just objects that are there for the man's own satisfaction. Obviously, allowing this kind of these kinds of viewpoints about women to fester and go on and on unchecked, it really only leads to a harm, and it leads to more men viewing women as objects. So I completely reject this notion that, like, this is just how men talk. If this is how you as a man talk, or you and your man friends talk, then shut the fuck up, get new friends, and start talking better.
I think if you want to be on the internet, it's time to put on the big girl pants. People are not nice here. Don't cry about it. Just live with it.
Rude, and they participate and peddle in the worst kind of identity politics. And then when the polls come around, after an election, and they see, well, the majority of women are leaning left or they're voting Democrat, they cry about that, and they say, well, see, they're driving all of society's problems.
See, now, in my opinion,
she's gonna say this is why women shouldn't vote. Just watch.
It's just my opinion. A more Christian response would be, why are the suburban house moms, the suburban Christian wives, not listening to their husbands on who to vote for?
Wait, so women can vote, but only who they can only vote who their husband says they can vote for? Well, okay, props to Just Pearly Things for not fulfilling my prophecy here. However, still, what? Just what?
Wouldn't that be the #1 talking point? What?
Because the #1 talking point within Christian circles, or anything for that matter, should not be the wife is just basically like an adult child that needs to listen to the husband and he's in charge.
Why does it matter what the women think when you're supposed to defer to your husband's authority? And see, again, that is step 4.
Just defer to your husband's authority. Women should have no thoughts of their own, no political opinions of their own. Never mind that we're watching Just Pearly Things, a woman with thoughts of her own giving her political opinions publicly. Never mind all this. No, women should be just mindless drones willing to encapsulate every belief held by the man in their life. Yes, this is exactly what most men want.
Oh, wait, no, not step 4. Step 5. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Step 6. Oh, no, it's step 3. Step 3. Christian women get offended and tell men how to talk. That's back to step 3. And then she says she's trying to appeal to the simps to tell the men how to talk.
They are doing the exact
So again, keep in mind the terminology she's using here. Simp is now being used to label men who don't think it's okay to objectify women with other men behind closed doors. The men that say, hey, it's actually bad to objectify people and treat them like they're nothing but objects or trophies that you score. That's kind of a bad thing, that's not really a very healthy view on women. Those guys are now simps. This is just another way of shaming men who do try to speak out against crude, gross, objectifying behavior that is far too common in groups of men.
opposite of attracting women to their ideas. So this has kind of been a conversation about women hitting their wall for a while. And the wall is basically the point at which women, and apparently this doesn't really exist for men, the women reach the point where they are no longer getting more attractive or gaining more value in the eyes of a potential mate and are kind of on the back end. So they're on the downhill. Their looks are getting
The wall is such a cringy concept, and also it's like it's going to depend so much on the individual, on their own skincare routine, how they eat, what their lifestyle. All of this is going to play a role on how people age. Acting as if like women all hit a wall at a certain point is just ridiculous. Pearl, like you may have hit a wall, a metaphorical wall, and your face looks like it's been smashed into a literal wall, but still, that does not go for all women.
worse. The attraction or attractiveness that they have to a guy is getting less and less, and they are no longer seen as kind of the cream of the crop. They've passed their prime, and there are some disagreements about what this age is. Some people say it's 26, some people say it's 30, some people say it's 35, some people say it's 40. And so there are some conversations, some kind of interesting, some not interesting at all, and just downright objectifying and degrading.
There we are.
Why is she so offended just by someone else mentioning how a lot of the red pill stuff and a lot of men in general objectify women? Like, she has such a massive aversion to this. She actually operates like the stereotypical woman that she posits, like the stereotype of a woman that she claims to support. She hears a buzzword and instantly is like, oh, bad, I'm offended, wrong. She was like, a lot of these guys are objectifying. I heard the word objectifying and that word triggers me. That means feminism, bad, bad, bad. Like, she's doing it. She's doing the buzzword thing.
Same words that feminists use. Objectifying, degrading, blah, blah.
I so called it, dude. Look, just because a feminist also said that word, feminists also say the sky is blue. Pearl, are you going to start denying that one?
Blah, cry me a river. Yeah. Again, so that's back to step 3. Christian women love telling men how to talk. They love
Well,
it.
maybe it's just a change of course, considering that Christian men have loved how to tell women to talk for the longest time ever. I mean, aren't there even Bible verses about how women should be quiet in church? Like, maybe it's just a, little change of scenery for once.
Think of the red pill as a locker room. Think of it as guys chatting in the locker room.
This is an even worse way to imagine the red pill, but okay.
The trad con feminists come in and say, don't say it like that.
Yeah, maybe treating women like sexual objects is not really very good. Gee willikers. That's only a feminist thing, clearly. Objectifying women is cool and based, unless you're a feminist.
True or is it not true? That's what we got to focus on. Is the information correct instead of crying about how it makes us feel?
Happening.
Yeah, usually men in locker rooms having crude conversations about some girl's ass or something usually aren't having like factual conversations. Do you think that they're in the locker room like, well, I think the circumference of her left ass cheek is generally proportional to her cheekbones? Do you think this is what's happening? No. A bunch of guys are sitting around being pigs, pointing at women, objectifying them, and that's all. There's not some logical conversation that's being had here that we need to determine whether or not it's true or not.
Online, and this was reignited over the last week or so because of some comments that conservative Charlie Kirk made. And I'm going to talk about not only what he said, but I'm going to give context to what he said, because I think that that's missing in a lot of these conversations. And my response won't really be to as much what he said specifically, but to just the conversation and the topic as a whole, that I think is actually really important for my audience in particular, that I know is made up of mostly women. There's plenty of related bros out there, but mostly women. Most of you are married. A lot of you are moms, but many of you are not. And it's hard enough out there. And I just want to make sure that we are on the same page as Christian women when it comes to your value, your calling, and your responsibility. And we can drown out some of the unhelpful chatter, but also maybe take some difficult truths and apply them.
Allie's approach, where your value comes from, is from God. Pearl, her approach is that where your value comes from is how attractive you are to men. Do you notice a similarity here? Neither side is offering a position of finding self-worth within yourself, of being content with yourself. Pearl says, no, you shouldn't be content with who you are because you might not be attractive to men. If you're really attractive to men, that raises your value. Whereas Allie B. Stuckey says, well, if you have a relationship with this one spiritual man, that defines your value. Having relationships with other human men, that's not that important. But as long as you have a relationship with this one man, that's what determines your value. Both sides are literally one of the same almost. They're both positing that you need the approval of some kind of masculine figure to build and confirm your own self-worth. And this is harmful. Because what if you have somebody who's raised their whole life to believe that their self-worth and value comes from their relationship with God, but then they start to doubt their relationship with God as they get older? Damn. Well, now suddenly their relationship with God might be dwindling, and with that goes all of their self-worth as well. Both of these are bad positions.
So first, let's talk about what Charlie Kirk said. He runs Turning Point USA, and I consider Charlie a friend. He has been on the podcast many times. We have spoken together. I speak
First red flag.
Turning Point events several times a year. He is truly one of the smartest and most articulate guys out there. You should go listen to the Whatever podcast.
Charlie Kirk, smartest guy. Okay.
Sheesh. That Charlie was on. He did such a great job of sharing the gospel and defending the faith. But recently he was at an event and he was answering questions. It ended up kind of going viral, generating a lot of controversy on X. Here's SOT 1.
We basically told a great generation of young women, don't get married, don't have kids, go get a corporate job, and it's created mass political hysteria.
No one's telling women to do this. No one's telling women, like, don't have kids, just go get a corporate job, and no one's saying this. This is just nothing but a straw man. All that the position of most feminism is that women should have the freedom and the choice. Men could choose to be a stay-at-home dad or go to work. Women should have that choice too. That's literally all.
And then in their early 30s, they get really upset because they say, you know, the boys don't want to date me anymore because they're not at their prime. And people get mad when I say that. Well, it's just true. If you're in your early 30s, I'm sorry. It's like you're not as attractive in the dating pool as you were in the early 20s. But again, you have your corporate job and cats. So I thought, you know. All
right.
Okay, yeah, so the women just by default aren't attractive at this age. Like, this is such bullshit. I don't even know what to say. I also like how she just played a clip of Charlie Kirk saying something really stupid after saying how he's one of the smartest men she knows.
Right, I got a lot to say to that, obviously, but let me pause. Let me tell you about our first sponsor for the day. And
yeah, we don't care about your sponsor.
With a lot of what Charlie Kirk said, and actually in context, I probably agree with all of it in a sense, so let me explain exactly what I mean by that. Let's break down his comments a little bit. So this generation of women, I would say generations of women, have been fed this idea that it is more important for you to make money and to be independent and to live on your own in your 20s and your 30s, and then you're going to find a guy who wants to marry you. You're going to settle down, you're going to be able to have kids, and you can spend the next 10 to 20 years doing it all or balancing both. And that is a lie that has absolutely caused mass hysteria.
It's a lie that that's all that people are being taught. Like this, again, like maybe the fact that everybody's going and getting a job has something to do with capitalism as well, and less to do with like feminism.
That is a lie that has caused a lot of disappointment and devastation. When women reach the age of 30,
Okay, so I wanted to point out something. When women make choices, it is always that we have been lied to, not that we wanted to. That is the problem. When you
This is
constantly
how like everybody is though. Like if a bunch of women are making a bad decision, what is the socialization behind that? Like for example, a bunch of women disproportionately don't go into STEM fields, despite the fact that when the STEM field was originating, women uniquely made massive contributions to that field. Now we don't see that so much. Now we don't see as many women interested in that. Why? There's obviously a socialization here. It doesn't mean that nothing is your fault, but it means that it's far more nuanced than just like, well, I made this choice, LOL. Same thing with men. Why do so many men close off their emotions? Probably because of how they're socialized to suppress their emotions. This doesn't mean that they're not responsible, but it also doesn't mean that it's just like, well, I just chose to suppress my emotions. I don't know, LOL, I'm a guy, I guess. Like, it's obviously deeper than that.
even in speech patterns, give women get out of jail free cards. That's, I mean, then don't be surprised when you see the next generation of women taking get out of jail free cards. It's always, they've been lied to. Women are never responsible for their own sin. Women don't have agency. You know,
Didn't you just say that women should be getting married and listening to their husband on who to vote for? You don't believe that women have any agency.
I know women, you know, I think Allie Beth Stuckey got married relatively early in life. I think she got married like early 20s. I could be wrong. She heard the same lies everyone else did. She chose a different path.
and they realize if they have purposely put their career first and put off commitment, put off marriage, put off dating, put off having kids, only to realize then that the guys around them at 35 years old are not dating 35-year-olds, but they are dating the 27-year-old who is not deciding to put her career first, or the 35-year-old realizes that, oh, my chances now of getting pregnant are a lot lower than they were 10 years ago. Did I mess this all up? And now possibly I'm being told that I have to harvest my eggs, I have to freeze them, and I have to go through IVF. That's a lot on someone's body. And of course, we won't get into the ethics of all of that right now, as we've talked about many, many times, the problems with IVF. But that is the dilemma that a lot of women are facing. So that is what Charlie is speaking to. Now, if I were to take this out of context and like just respond to the part where he said, you know, well, you said that you were fine with your corporate job and your cat, so that's okay. Like, I want to address that to you because he is speaking to a certain kind of woman that I just described.
No, it applies to all women. It applies to women in church and out of church. I mean,
What?
sorry, guys, if women in church had such a great reputation, there'd be men lining up to date church women. There's just not.
What? I like how everything, like, first of all, she's shitting on this idea for apparently saying that women have no agency. And then everything that women do, she determines whether or not it's the right decision based on how men react to it. If church women were good, more men would want to go to church. Herder? I've heard more intellectual arguments from shits I've taken.
Such a great reputation, there'd be men lining up to date church women. There's just not. In fact, many men see it as a red flag, women that are religious, because the quality is so much lower.
Doesn't religion consistently like teach women to maintain their quote unquote purity and wait till marriage to have sex? Now all of a sudden this is also lower value? I'm so confused. It's starting to feel like, and I could be wrong, but it's starting to feel like from Pearl's point of view, there is no way women could ever win. Could be wrong though.
Intentionally chose her career.
Something's buzzing. I don't know if it's...
It's your last brain cell holding on for dear life, Pearl. That's what you're hearing.
I would venture to guess that the vast majority of you listening to the show that are in your late 20s or your 30s and you are unmarried and you don't have kids, that you are not in this situation because you want to be. You are not in this situation, most likely, because you imbibed feminist propaganda and you put your career first and you became this girl boss who had her...
Okay, but again, it doesn't matter what people say. It matters what we do. And that's the problem. You know, Christian women can say something, but look at what we do.
Blinders on.
What do you mean? What do you do? Like, Christian women on average are far more traditional. I thought that's what you were pushing for. I'm so confused.
That is the circumstance, that is the situation that God has placed you in. And it is not for lack of trying. It is not for lack of preparing. It is not for lack of praying that you are right now in this season of singleness. And so hearing something like, you're 30 and you're past your prime and you're not as attractive to men, that is understandably extremely offensive.
She's gonna get triggered by the word again. She heard the word offensive. She's triggered. She's offended.
Shouldn't be offensive. It's true.
It's not true though. It's literally not true. Pearl, you hit the wall the minute you were born. Like, clearly this is not true. There's not just like universal numbers here. Like, once you reach the age of 30, you've hit the wall. This is pathetic.
And again, that's back to 3. Christian women get offended. See that? Step 3. Offense is a tool they use to control people. Yep. Step 3. Thank you.
Extremely hurtful. Now, some of it is just plain true in that, yes, we become less fertile over the age of 35. That is just true. And unfortunately, I mean, it is true that a lot of men in their 30s are looking to date women in their 20s. That is just, I think, a fact of reality that many women have to reckon with. But listen, this is also true that God has written every single day of your life before any of them.
You ruined it. You had to ruin it.
If Christian women have a poor outcome, it's never blamed on their behavior, but they blame it on God's plan.
Okay, this isn't limited to just Christian women, you buffoon. This goes to all Christians. This is why I coined the term the God box so long ago, where Christians will take anything that happens and say that it's God. It's part of God's plan. They put it in the God box. Everything fits into the God box. Everything is God's plan. And eventually you reach a point where if everything is God, then nothing is God. How do you even know what's God and what's not then if everything is already God? It defeats the purpose. Pearl is sort of waking up, I guess, to one of these flaws within Christianity. But again, she's pinning this on women. Somehow it's just women that do this? From experience, being raised Christian, debating Christians, all of this stuff. This is a Christian belief. This is not Christian women belief.
I'm not saying God doesn't have a plan, but I genuinely do not believe that God wanted Nala to put her butthole on OnlyFans. I really don't. I don't. And, that choice will have a repercussion.
Well, I don't believe that God wanted you to put your existence on the planet, but yet here you are. So I don't know.
But what I've noticed is that whenever there's a negative outcome, the Christians never tell women that it's based on their behavior. It's always, it's because of God. But if a man has a poor outcome, it's always because of his behavior.
That God is completely sovereign. Romans 8:28.
There are literally so many examples of churches that have like turned a blind eye to abuse on the part of the man and just like given him forgiveness. What do you mean? This happens sometimes in church in general. This is not something with just women.
It's always because of his behavior.
That God is completely sovereign. Romans 8:28 is still true, that God works everything together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. It is also true that God sees you, that God hears you, that he has not forgotten about you, that he knows even better than you do the desires of your heart. And he knows what today holds, what tomorrow holds, what the future holds, and he has done more difficult things than bringing a woman a husband at the age of 35. That is not too hard for him. That is not too difficult for him. That is not...
Yeah, but the facts don't match up with what you're saying, Allie. If a woman's 35 and unmarried, it's likely that she will never get married.
Let's actually look this up. The share of men aged 35 to 39 who were married decreased by 2 percentage points to 59%, and the share of women aged 35 to 39 who were married remained relatively constant at 63%. CDC, who marries and when? Age at first marriage in the United States, 2002. Over 70% of men and women aged 25 to 44 have ever been married. 71% of men and 79% of women. The probability that men will marry by age 40 is 81%. For women, it is 86%. A larger percentage of women than men aged 35 to 44 have married by age 35. So where is the data showing that, like, if you reach 35, you're way less likely to get married? Where is this? Could somebody fill me in, please? Because I'm literally seeing the opposite. Average age for heterosexual marriage hits 35 for women and 38 for men. The average age at which heterosexual couples marry has reached 35.7 years for women and 38 years for men. Damn. So when women are apparently hitting the wall and becoming so much more unattractive is also the average time in which they get married. That's just how catastrophically wrong Pearl is.
Once a woman hits 30 and is not in a relationship, it's more likely that she won't have kids than she will. And selling these dreams, I'm not in the business of it. It might appeal better to your female audience. I'm sure you get far less hate than me. But I got to be honest. You know, I'm just a fan of speaking in reality, being honest.
If you're a fan of speaking in reality, then the first thing you would do is delete your entire YouTube channel. What you just said is detached from reality. What?
Too much of an obstacle for him to overcome.
Okay, so Just Pearly Things, basically finding every excuse imaginable to blame women. And now she's setting her sights on Christian women for some reason. Wow. Just Pearly Things. Would you please find Jesus, get married, and just leave the rest of us alone forever? Thanks everybody for suffering with me. Don't forget to click that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and become a member so you can get early access to content. I'll see you all soon. Peace. If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today.